Hello, how are you? Happy, what is today? Monday. Sorry. I am Julie, and do you know what narcolepsy really is? Because I know a lot of people don't, and they just know what stereotypes are. So, today is the second day of National Sleep Awareness Week, or Sleep Week, or all about sleep this week. So, I wanted to talk about narcolepsy today because some of you might know that I've had this for my whole life, and it's very misunderstood. So I'm going to clear some things up. So what is it? It is technically a rare disease, they call it, or sleep disorder, that it still actually affects about 200,000 Americans every year. So it's like 20 to 60 people per 100,000. So, and it's kids and adults, they doesn't discriminate. So, it is basically usually lifelong, and what it does is it disrupts your sleep-wake cycle. So, I won't get too technical yet, but hang on, I got notes, and I have narcolepsy, so I'm always scattered. But it disrupts your sleep-wake cycle, and so your brain doesn't know how to, it doesn't know night, day sometimes, and it's always exhausted. So, let me see. I guess we'll go right to symptoms, because there are 5 main symptoms of it. Obviously, excessive daytime sleepiness is huge. Just tired. Everybody can relate to being tired, but they say talking or comparing you and a normal sleep brain staying up for 48 to 72 hours. That's what we feel like on pretty much any day. So yes, it's hard to relate to a sleep disorder, but because everybody's been there, but it's not just, oh, I'm tired. It is literally they call them sleep attacks, and that is what you have seen, and that's what people make fun of. It's like, oh, you have narcolepsy, like this. And it's not funny, but it kind of looks like that for people who don't know. That's why we have sleep awareness stuff. But it is like an overwhelming urge to sleep, and it's it's like yawning. Like, you tell yourself don't yawn, you're gonna do it. So just be aware of that. And so basically, normal brains, you go through your sleep cycle. You lay down, you go through your stages in, light sleep, a little heavier sleep, and then you're like stage 3 and 4, that's when you're repairing your body and getting restorative sleep. And then you have the REM stage, which is rapid eye movement, and that's when your body basically paralyzes you. Not scary, just it puts you out so you don't move and act out your dreams. Obviously, you would have lots of problems if you didn't do that. So that's the rapid eye movement, and that is usually the last stage, or it is the last stage in a normal cycle. So maybe like an hour or more after you lay down and go to sleep, you get to the rapid eye movement, and that's when your body's like shut down so you don't act out whatever dreams you're having. That's how it goes for normal people. With narcolepsy, it just goes whenever it feels like it. So that's why when you do a sleep study, you'll see, like for me, one of my naps on a sleep study is I lay down and within a minute I was in REM sleep, which should take at least an hour for normal people. So that's how the sleep-wake cycle gets all messed up, and then you get this. So that is pretty much how that goes. And then there's 2 different types. Sorry, I didn't bring that up. There is, now it's called type 1, which is with cataplexy, and that is, technical name or definition is like a sudden loss of muscle tone. So that can look different for everybody. Usually it's when like a strong emotion, like either laughing, crying, like upset, anything like that. And it can be anything from like your knees giving out, like your knees giving out on you, or like one of those, like just something out of whack. Or it could be, in my case, completely falling down. Like, I look like I pass out. So I'm going to get to my story in a minute, but yeah, it looks like I pass out. So it can be minor to huge. So that is what cataplexy is. And then the type 2 is just, it's just narcolepsy without cataplexy. And it's not that hard. So some people get it, some don't. I was lucky to have it. And yeah, it affects about the same amount of people. So I know I said the symptoms, I totally skipped that, but number 1 is excessive daytime sleepiness. So if you have more than like 3-4 days of like you just can't shake it and you're not sick or nothing out of the ordinary that you shouldn't be feeling like that, keep an eye on that. You might want to look into it eventually, but that should last for, I mean, you can just have a week where you're tired. That's nothing to be worried about. But if it lasts for weeks or months, then definitely look into that, because lack of sleep, it will just ruin you. I mean, you need it, and your body can't function without it, and you'll have a whole host of other things go wrong if you don't deal with it. So don't ignore that. Second symptom, it's funny, I was just talking about this, is automatic behaviors. So it's like when you focus too hard on not falling asleep or don't be tired, don't do this, you just go in like autopilot. It happens all the time to me, and you can sit there and just all of a sudden you're writing your paper at school, or you read a book and you're like, no idea what just happened, and you don't remember because your body just does what it needs to do. Disrupted night sleep obviously is before you're diagnosed, and this is happening a lot, like you're waking up, you're tossing and turning, you're in bed but you're not sleeping, you're not, all kinds of things. That could be one of the symptoms to watch out for. And this one is very scary. It's called sleep paralysis, and I don't know how they technically describe it, but I had an experience once where it's like I had nightmares, and that's very common with narcolepsy. And I just remember laying there, and something was scary, but my eyes were wide open, and I couldn't move, like, to save my life. Like, I could not move, and I was in bed. So it can happen where your body is just, because it's in between stages and doesn't know what's happening, you can just be stuck. So if your kid ever mentions that, don't dismiss it, because I'm not saying it is, but I was a kid when this happened. So, and then that kind of goes along with the hallucinations. They call you can have, when you're sleeping, like, or when you're falling asleep or when you're waking up, you can have these hallucinations, and it's usually like a bad dream. And so it's not like you're going crazy, but if you've ever had that where you couldn't remember if it was a dream or real life, or it's just one of those strange situations. So that is actually part of that. So mine was, my eyes were awake and I saw something like clear as day in my room, but it obviously wasn't really there, and then I couldn't move. So that was 2 instances of those at the same time, and it was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. So that is some of those symptoms. But the funny thing is, everybody will have the excessive daytime sleepiness symptom, and less than a quarter of the people will have all the symptoms. So, and you may never, or they can come way later in life, or not at all. So those are just some things. So don't dismiss it. If any of that sounds like you and you're not sure, just don't ignore it. You better look into it. Real quick, I wanted to say about with kids. So it's just as common with kids or adults. It's not like one group's affected more. So, but in kids, it looks a little different. I mean, they'll still have some of those issues, like I said, with the dreams and all that, but the sleepiness part doesn't necessarily come across as sleepy. It can be just really restless and irritable, which usually gets turned into a behavioral problem. So it might not be that. And then the cataplexy can be more subtle. Like, it might, wouldn't be something as obvious. It could be looking like a facial tic to a lot of people too. So, I mean, it could just be like this kind of thing for a while, and it could be nothing, but that's how it starts to look in kids. So just to be aware. And the cataplexy part is in about 80% of the cases with kids. So if you have something going on with your little and you're not sure and you've tried everything, don't rule it out. Maybe ask the doctor. And speaking of that, just real quick on how to even diagnose it is obviously talking with the doctor and history of how long, but you'll do a sleep study. So they'll hook all the things up to your head and your body, and you go sleep at a sleep clinic, and they'll monitor you overnight. And then the fun part, the next day they wake you up for, I don't know, maybe an hour or something, and then you have to take a nap. And you got to take 5 naps. It's called a PSG, is the polysomnogram sleep study, and then a multiple sleep latency test the next day. So just know if you're going to be tested for that, plan on spending about a day and a half there. So that's not so fun. So anyway, sorry, I don't want to make this too long, but I'll just tell you guys this because I've spent my whole life trying to figure this out, and if this video hits somebody that is in any similar situation and save you 20 years of stress, then I'm going to tell you. So for me, my story started, I was about 10, 11 years old, and all of a sudden I just was tired a lot, but I mean, you don't think anything of it, kids can be tired, but I started passing out, they said, or they called it, and there was no real reason, so that started a whole bunch of doctors, and just, everything under the sun. Like, I was depressed, I'm lazy, I'm making it up, I was dramatic, just all kinds of things. And if any of my growing up people are on here, then I actually was asked to go from our junior high. So I was there 7th grade, 8th grade. They're like, hey, she's causing too much of a scene because of my passing out. So can you imagine that? Like 12 years old and still don't know. And I knew something was wrong. I had just tired all the time, had terrifying nightmares every night, and just basically being told that it's in your head, or then diagnosed with everything under the sun that I didn't have. But the cataplexy itself is what was wrong, because I was diagnosed as seizures. So I had a couple years of seizure treatments, which I never had. So I say this like as a cautionary tale, because this took me literally my whole life. This started when I was about 10, and I was about 30 when they finally figured it out. And by passing out all the time, I could hear everybody, and I knew people were around me talking, and like, oh, is she okay? Should we do this or this? And I knew it was happening. I physically couldn't move. I couldn't say anything, or I just was frozen. It was like being paralyzed in your body. But I knew something was wrong, and like I said, 20 years of this until finally somebody asked the right questions, and it was an ENT appointment, which had nothing to do with anything. So he actually asked the right questions, and I still remember, he's like, you are going to be the first cataplastic narcoleptic I've seen. I'm like, a what now? So sure enough, I did the test, and I was. So I wasn't totally crazy, and I was validated that my passing out was actually called cataplexy and wasn't just in my head. So just one of those stories that if you know something's wrong and you didn't get the answer that you needed, don't give up on that, and don't just believe that. So hopefully this would help somebody that's got any of these situations. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, though, if you do have any. But just wanted to give you a little more on narcolepsy today. There's other ones coming, but second day of sleep week. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you would like to know any more about, if you have any sleeping issues, send me a message or comment, and I can get you the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. It's a little quiz you can do to see if your numbers even line up for how tired you are. I can get you that quiz to take, and then if it comes to be something, you can take it to your doctor and start there. Or if you want to know my resources and things that I've used to help with narcolepsy forever, send me a message too, and I'm glad to help you out. All right, have a good day.